Ollie doesn't generally do a lot of murder mysteries. It's usually a little bit too intense for him, but this one he did get called into. What was even more unusual about it was it wasn't the police that brought him in. He got a call from this just dude named Phil. Phil called him and said, Ollie, I need your help. There's been a murder, and you need to investigate. It happened at my neighbor's house, and I'll pay your fee. Well, I thought that was all very strange, but he decided to go anyway. So he got to the address, and the guy Phil was waiting for him there. He said, "Hey, yeah, thank you for coming so quickly. Yeah, it's pretty bad in there. I want to warn you. It's really weird. I don't quite know what's going on with it. I went to go and check on him. I've got the keys, and because we're neighbors and stuff, and so that's what I found. I guess I'll just show you." And so he unlocked the door, and he went in ahead, and Ollie followed. And there, on the floor of the living room, was, it's an odd sight, a disturbing sight. There was indeed a dead body there, but the dead body didn't have the human head it presumably once had. Instead, it had a donkey's head. And I said, oh, this is well beyond my usual area of expertise. I think you should probably call the police. I said, yeah, I mean, I will, but they never do anything right. So I wanted to, this neighbor was really nice, and I want you to be involved so you can solve it before the cops get here, because they're going to mess it up. I don't know. I don't trust them. And I said, okay, let me take a look. Well, I didn't really want to, but at this point he was already there, and it seemed awkward to just leave. So I went and took a closer look, and the donkey's head had been sewn onto the person's neck. I said, is there any sign, Ollie said, of where the actual person's head is? And Phil said, I don't know. Not that I've seen. I haven't looked around the whole place. I did find a few things, though, that might be helpful. I said, okay. I said, well, I noticed that there's some car keys over there on the windowsill, kind of by where the body is. I looked, and there was some car keys there. And there's also, there's that knife. And Phil pointed, and then there was this knife stuck into the couch, big old kitchen knife. I said, all right. Yeah, is there anything else? And he said, not that I've seen yet. I said, all right, let me take a look. And he dusted the knife and the keys for fingerprints. And he scanned them in, and he sent them in for fingerprint analysis. He had a connection in the FBI. Ollie does. While he was waiting for that, Ollie took the keys, photographed where they were, took the keys, and went outside and just hit the alarm button on the keys to see if the car was parked nearby. And indeed, a car started beeping, half a block down the street. And I said, is this your neighbor's car? And I said, no, I don't. No, that's not the name. That's not his car. I guess whoever did it must have left in a hurry, and when they didn't have their keys, maybe they just ran or something. I said, all right. Well, let's go take a look. Now, Ollie and Phil walked over to the car that was beeping, and he turned off the beeper. And the car had license plates, so Ollie sent the same FBI connection the license plates to check. And inside of the car, the windows were cracked a little bit. But inside the car, there were a bunch of DVDs and other like merchandise, like a lot, for the TV show BoJack Horseman, which is a cartoon where about a Hollywood actor that has a horse head for a head. I said, oh, and that seems like it might be connected. I said, yeah, it does seem like the owner of this car is in the house and has some weird obsession with that horsehead cartoon show. I said, Phil sort of swallowed and said, yeah. Like the donkey head on the, I said, yeah, like the donkey head on our victim here. All right, we'll come back to that when I hear back about the license plate number and the fingerprints. Let's go back inside and see what else we can find. I said, oh, okay. So I went back in and started looking in the rest of the house. And everything was, mostly normal. All I noticed that the back door was unlocked. And he went out back, and the gate was open. And there was like a trail of stains on the sidewalk leading from the back door to the gate. And I said, why don't you wait here for a second, Phil? I said, okay, I'll wait here. I went back, followed the trail out. He looked at where it went out in the alley. And he came back in. I said, all right. Let's see what else we can see here. He looked upstairs, and there wasn't really anything that seemed out of place. And Ollie asked Phil, so were you in here a lot? I said, sometimes. We didn't hang out a lot, but we would sometimes, we used to watch the Oscars together, I guess, and some things like that. Neither of us have a lot of friends, but we were here sometimes. And there was another guy that we see sometimes. His name's Neil. What is his last name? Jackson. Yeah. He's over here more than I am. But I come over sometimes too. I said, all right. I'm going to have to check in with this Neil Jackson guy. Right about then, Ella's phone rang. This is FBI connection. The FBI connection said, all right, Ollie, I've got some information for you. So the fingerprints match the owner of the car. It's a Neil Jackson. Yeah. It's not a whole lot on him. The fingerprints are in there because he got picked up for shoplifting 5 years ago, and he got fingerprinted then. But other than that, he doesn't have a criminal record, really. He works in some sort of office job. He's like an accountant or something at a small firm nearby. There's some contact information for him. I said, all right, thank you. I looked around some more. I said, can I see the keys? My keys for this door, you mean? I said, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to check those. And I took a look. I said, okay, this is the key you used for this door. And I guess one of these is your house key? He said, yeah, that one there, the tiger stripe one, is my house key. I said, okay, and what's the other one? The other one is my key to my mother's house. Yeah, it's my mother's house. Mother's house. I said, all right, that sounds fine. Well, sounds like I better give this Neil Jackson guy a call. Would you excuse me for a minute? Would you mind going back over to your house while I make this call, and I will check back with you in a few minutes? Phil said, oh, yeah, that's no problem, sure. I guess, yeah, you don't want anybody messing with your investigation, right? I said, yeah, it's best to keep these things private. Okay, sure. And I was seeing him go back into his house and was sure that he was there. I closed the door and locked the doors. And I started to take a closer look. The victim was an older guy. It was hard to tell because, couldn't look at the face. But he had some, varicose veins and liver spots on his arm and his hand. I was trying not to mess with it too much because he was very sure that the police were going to need to get involved. So he decided at first he would call Neil Jackson. So he called this Neil Jackson person. And a man with a British accent answered. I said, hello, who's this? I said, hi, my name's Ollie the Octopus. Is this Neil Jackson? I said, oh, yes, it's Neil. What can I do for you? I said, well, I'm trying to get a hold of a friend of yours. He lives at, and Ollie gave the address that he was standing in. And I said, oh, yeah, it's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. Yeah, let's see. Well, I have his phone number. I said, yeah, no, I tried calling and didn't get an answer there. I'm a little worried about him, honestly. I said, oh, well, gosh, I am stuck at work. You could come well, I do have a spare key to his house at my place, but my place is all the way up in Mount Washington. Oh, you know what? His next door neighbor, Phil. Phil also's got a key. And let's see. Yeah, Phil and he and I, we hang out a lot. Phil's got a key to my house, too. Not that that's any help. But yeah, I'd try to get a hold of Phil. Here, I'll text you Phil's number. Is this a cell phone you're calling me on? I said, yeah, you can text me Phil's number. And he lives right next door. It's the house to the south. And I'm sure he can get you in. And he works not far away. So even if he's at work, which I don't think he is today, then yeah, he can get you in. And call me back. Let me know if he's okay, all right? I said, sure, I'll call you back when I have more information. And at that point, Ollie called the police. Specifically, he called a detective friend of his who was in the homicide division. He didn't work with him a lot because, like I said, Ollie tries not to get too involved in homicides, but this, was such a situation. Ollie, I need you to stop fidgeting around. I still. He said, hey, Dave, listen, I got called in by a private client for the homicide. And here's the thing, there's some weird stuff going on here. So I think you need to bring, a whole team of, officers ready to arrest somebody. And he told Dave some more information. And Dave said, all right, yeah, can you give me half an hour to get a team together? I said, yeah, I think I can stall things around here. So I looked around some more. Also, I need you to stop fidgeting. So Ollie, just kind of poked around there, looked for anything else that might be useful. And then he went over and he knocked on Phil's door. I thought about it for a minute. And Phil answered. He said, hey, listen, I think I've got some ideas, but I need to get a hold of Neil. do you know where he works? Do you know, like, the address? Like, I have his phone number, but do you know where he works? And Phil said, yeah, hold on, let me go inside. I've got it here somewhere. I said, you mind if I come in? I said, oh, yeah, sure. And Phil said, yeah, sure, come on in. And Phil was like, Ollie was, walking around Phil's house, just kind of looking around, and Phil started acting kind of nervous. He said, oh, hey, yeah, if you just wait there, I've got his address here. I can open my computer. It came up a few weeks ago. It's in my email, so just give me 1 minute. If you want to just wait right there. And Phil started typing in his computer. And I looked around and walked through the kitchen, which made Phil very nervous, and looked around the back. And Phil said, oh, here it is. I got it. It's this address over on Charles Street. And he gave Ollie the address. I said, all right. In a little bit, I might try to go over there and see if I can, catch him off guard. So tell me about yourself, Phil. And Ollie just started to try and strike up a normal, natural conversation. At this point, he was just stalling. That stalling worked, and in about 20 minutes, there's a knock on the door. So I said, oh, that's odd. I wasn't expecting anyone other than you at the moment. Yeah, let me go see who that is. And they opened the door, and there was the detective, Dave. I said, oh, the police are here. Hi. Dave said, hi. Are you Phil Waltz? So I said, yeah, I'm Phil Waltz. It's great. Maybe we come in? There's been a report I wanted to check with you. I said, sure. Yeah, that'd be fine. Come on in. And Dave said, yeah, how about we sit down there in your living room and we can talk about what we've heard. And maybe you can help us figure out what's going on. So I said, yeah, sure. Yeah. So Dave and Phil and Ollie sat down in the living room, and the other officers started walking around. I said, oh, what are they doing? Dave said, oh, yeah, standard stuff. We always check out. Is it all right with you they look around? They're just looking for anything unusual. There's been a report of a pretty grisly murder nearby. I just want to make sure that their murderer isn't still in the house. Is it all right if we look around? Phil said, oh, I guess that's fine. Dave said, great. Guys, if you don't just look around, be careful. We don't know where the perp is. And the officer started looking around, and that made Phil very nervous. And Phil started asking Dave, and said, yeah, so there's been a report that there's been a prowler moving around, and he might have hurt somebody. Do you know anything about any of that? And Phil looked at Ollie, and Ollie shrugged. And Phil said, yeah. I was going to call you guys. I wondered, that my next door neighbor, he's been killed. And they said, oh, right here, next door to your house. I said, yeah, I can let you in. I have the keys. It's pretty bad. And Dave said, all right, yeah, let me get a couple of the officers here. We'll go right over there now. Yeah, absolutely. So Dave and Phil and two of the officers went over there, and Dave started marking things off, and he called some more officers in. And Phil took Ollie aside and said, this is exactly why I didn't want to get the police involved yet. We don't know what's going on. Can't you tell them what you found? I said, yeah, let me tell him what I found. I'll go talk to him. Right about then, Dave got a message from one of the other officers on his radio. Dave said, I understood. And he turned around to Phil. I said, hey, Dave, so I wanted to fill you in on what I found before you guys came. Dave said, yeah, well, you can fill me in just a minute, but right now, Phil Waltz, you are under arrest. Phil said, what? I said, yeah, no, we looked in the freezer, Phil. We found the head. We know it was you. I said, no, it was all perfect. Why did you think it was me? I don't understand. And I said, I can answer that, Phil. This is what's called an oversupply of evidence. You had everything you
called Ollie?
Yeah. I said, I knew pretty much as soon as we saw that car that Neil didn't have anything to do with it. When a real crime happens, evidence is hard to come by. Sometimes you don't find anything. Often you're lucky if you find one or two things. So to have the keys and the car and the posters and the fingerprints and the knife and everything all just right there, it was staged. I could tell right away it was staged. Here's what I think happened, Phil. I think you took your key to Neil's house, which I know that you have. You went in there. You got a knife out of his kitchen drawer. You held it very carefully, making sure not to smudge his prints. And you brought it over here and you stuck it in the couch. You probably drove back with it. Neil's car, too, and spread those flyers and posters and DVDs everywhere. All to make it look like an open and shut case that Neil did this terrible thing. But it was you, wasn't it? And Phil growled and said, dang it. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't prove anything. Dang it, Neil was trying to get in his will. Neil's not a good person. Neil's such a jerk. This guy's a jerk too. You're all jerks. I'll get you for this. I'll ruin your reputation. Nobody will ever want to call you again when they find out that you turn your own clients in. And he said other mean things as the officers dragged him away to the car. Dave said, yeah, some good detective work there, Ollie. It's a shame about all this. It's a grisly mess. I said, yeah, this is an ugly one. Do you want to call this guy Neil, or you want me to do that? Dave said, no, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll give him the bad news, and I'll have to bring in some questioning, too, find out how you got all wrapped up in all this. Thank you for your help, Ollie. Next time, though, you can just call me right away. I said, yeah, it would have been hard to get out of here. I was a little worried. Once I saw the trail of blood leading from the back door back around to his gate, I knew kind of what was going on, and I didn't wanted to keep things as clean as possible for you, straightforward. They said, the trail? I said, yeah, when I followed if you look out back, there's a stain that leads from the back door here. It goes out the gate. Well, that stain goes back around to Phil's yard. So I don't know where he got this horse head or whatever, but he brought it in through there. As soon as I saw that, I knew what was going on. He said, nice work, Ollie. At some point, we might have to tempt you to come onto the force. I said, no way. This is not the kind of thing I want to deal with on a regular basis. I'll take big, crazy monsters and family disputes any day of the week. That was the case of Ollie and the horsehead man.